Time. Not everyone can feel it as a real thing. It goes by quickly, like a breeze or leaves falling to the ground. But one thing we can't deny is that time always goes by quickly. So quickly that we sometimes have to ask ourselves, is it too late to change? Is it true that we've missed chances that seem to be unforgettable marks on our life journey because we've been too busy to find the meaning of life? Is it true that we've let time slip through our fingers? An alchemist once remarked, "We can't change the past, but we can make gold from what we have left." Is it possible that the shattered portions of our lives that we think are failures can be put back together and turned into something valuable? And I wonder if we have the patience to look back. Can we see that in every failure and every moment of worry, there are seeds waiting to be planted and grow? Sometimes, when we look at the clock, it seems like the minutes are just faint shadows in the dark. When we realize that time has gone by faster than we thought, all we can do is sigh. But do those moments mean the end for us? Time never comes back. That is one of the undeniable truths of life. We cannot go back. We cannot change what is past. But there is one thing that the alchemists have taught us: coagulation, the union of opposites between matter and spirit, past and present, failure and success. What we consider worthless may be the core part to create something truly precious. So, could it be that what we lost and thought was gone forever could be the source of energy for our own rebirth? On a late autumn day, when the leaves had begun to fall all over the street, a man sat in his room, his eyes staring blankly out the window. Time passed by, unstoppable, and the clock on the wall seemed to remind him that today, like every other day, would pass by just like that. He thought about the missed opportunities, about the dreams that would never come true. A heavy sigh echoed as he looked back to the past, where the unfinished things still lingered. I don't have much time left. Death is unavoidable. But is it true that we can only die when we haven't lived enough? Or is it true that we realize we still don't understand the meaning of life when we die? But I have one more question for you. If death is the end, is there a new start in every minute we live? Can we integrate all of our mistakes and regrets into who we are, making our lives more fulfilling? Time, so is time the only thing that can never come back? Or are we those of us who never have enough time to live the ones to be truly afraid of? We will go through the stories and the hard times in life. And as the alchemists taught, we can only understand that time is not the enemy when we really look back at what has happened. Time is the teacher, and life, no matter how short, is the chance for us to craft gold. Are you ready to look back on your life and find the parts that aren't finished yet? Are you ready to turn them into real gold? Anton sat by the window of his simple room on a gloomy afternoon when the light was slowly fading. He wasn't looking outside. Instead, he was staring into the void, as if he was looking for something he had lost in the past. The yellow leaves falling outside the window were a sign that his mind was getting tired of endless thoughts. Anton was in his 50s, which is when we all have to ask ourselves, what have I been doing all this time? But Anton couldn't find an answer to that question. Every time he thought about the past, he felt empty, as if time had passed him by, like the leaves outside the window, crumbling in the wind without anyone noticing. He remembered his younger years, when he had big dreams and goals. He wanted a stable job, a happy family, and trips to see the world. But now, looking back, he saw that all of those things had passed him by. He was no longer the man of big dreams, but just a fading figure in his own life. Anton is unhappy with his family life and can't tell anyone about it. Every time he looks in the mirror, he sees a tired man with signs of time on his face. The wrinkles are the clearest sign that time has passed and cannot be returned. But it wasn't just those failures that made Anton feel empty. He was also afraid of death, which is a natural human fear. Not because he was afraid of dying, but because he was afraid that he would never have the chance to fix his mistakes or do the things he missed. Could it be that death comes to us not because we have lived too long, but because we have not lived fully? And every night, sitting in his cold room, Anton could feel time passing, never stopping. Each hour was like a reminder that life is short. The moments that had passed, the dreams that had not come true, and the chances that had been missed all seemed to invade his mind, like waves that swept away everything else. And then, in that moment, he realized something. Time, whether it passes quickly or slowly, is not the enemy. It is he. It is how he perceives time that determines, can he change the way he perceives time? Can he learn to live fully from what remains? Anton found an old book by chance. It was something he had found on his grandfather's bookshelf. The book, which was old and peeling, contained the teachings of an alchemist who had lived through the centuries, Fulcanelli. Anton couldn't help but think about the saying in it. What is lost is not something we cannot find again. It is these fragments. If we know how to unite, that will become the most precious thing in life. Anton looked at the book. His eyes blurry. He didn't understand everything that was written in it. But a strange feeling crept into his soul. It felt like a door was opening in front of him, leading him on a journey he had never thought of before. A journey not to find lost things, but to accept them, mix them in, and make them a part of his life that he couldn't live without. He thought about his failures and dreams that had not come true. Were there jewels in them that he had not yet found? Was it possible that every painful portion of the past may be a chance for rebirth? Anton doesn't know where he'll go from here. But he knows that this book is like a key that will take him to a new place. A place where he won't go back to the past, but where he can make something good out of what he has left. He knows that what scares him is not death, but the lack of life he has lived. And will Anton find the peace he is looking for as he goes on this journey? Or will he keep fighting his own fears? So, can Anton get over the ghosts of the past and move into a new space where time is no longer an enemy, but a teacher? Let's keep following this story to find out how Anton will turn the broken pieces of his life into real gold. Anton sat in his room with the old book open in front of him. The pages were worn and faded with time. The words of Fulcanelli, whose name he had only heard in stories, resonated in his head like whispers from the past, like an awakening he had never imagined. Fulcanelli is a mysterious name in the world of alchemy. He left behind not only amazing works, but also clear lessons about change. He taught that only when people can harmonize matter and spirit can they find true transformation. Anton felt like he was seeing a new path, a path of change, not only from the outside, but also from within the soul. Coagulation is the word Fulcanelli used to describe one of the most important processes in alchemy. It is not just a mix of elements, it is a mix of spirit and matter. The visible and the invisible, the past and the present. In it, death is not the end, but the beginning of a new life. A transformation from the pieces of life into a better form. This is the real gold. Not the physical gold, but the gold of the soul. Anton sat there, staring at the word coagulation. He didn't know what it meant, but it made him feel strange. Could it be that the wounds in his heart and the losses of his past were the ingredients to make something more valuable? If he could learn to harmonize them, could he learn to use the broken parts of his life and then be reborn as a new person? A more complete person. As Anton kept reading, he read not just words, but also the deep thoughts of a man who had figured out the mysteries of life. Fulcanelli's ideas about alchemical transmutation were magical. They weren't just for academics. Anyone could do them, even the most ordinary person. Transformation is not the creation of something new, but the transformation of something old into another form. These words from Fulcanelli were like a wake-up call for Anton. Is it possible that he didn't understand that the things that seemed broken were really chances to make things better? Could it be that he needed to accept the bad things in his life and make them a part of who he is? Time, in Anton's eyes, it is no longer just passing moments, but an endless flow, full of transformation. If time is a river, then each moment of life is a grain of silt settling in the riverbed. What we think has passed is not lost, but has only been transformed into memories. Lessons that help us grow up. Anton looked back at his life and realized that it wasn't the moments that had passed that mattered, but how he had lived them. Fulcanelli said that death was not the end, but a change of form. If that was true, could his moments of regret and past failures be seen as part of a transformation? Could they be reborn into something better if he learned to see them in a new way? Anton feels that he is going on a journey of metamorphosis with each line of Fulcanelli's writing. This book, even though it is simply old pages, has a mystical power that makes Anton face himself and what he has missed in his life. He knew that the broken parts of his life, the failures and the pain, were not beyond repair. They just needed to be mixed with the happy memories and moments of success to make a new person. Just like in alchemy, it is in the mixing of opposites, between pain and joy, that we can find the real gold of full life and a peaceful soul. So, Anton started to understand that it wasn't the past or time that mattered, but how he chose to deal with them. If the broken pieces of life could be put back together, why couldn't he start from what was left? Time has passed, but Anton is no longer afraid of it. He has learned that we can make real gold for ourselves in the moments that seem to be irreversible. But what will Anton do with this new knowledge? Can he change his life by combining the past and the present to make a better future will go with him on this journey? Anton is no longer sitting around in a daze. He is no longer a man of regret, looking back at the past and worrying about the future. Fulcanelli's book is not just old pages. It has become a mirror that shows him who he is and helps him realize that to live fully, he needs to accept the broken parts of his life and see them as necessary parts of making a new life. Anton no longer saw time as an enemy. He no longer looked at the clock with anxiety, no longer sighed as he realized each passing minute. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity. Every moment could bring change, transformation, and in that very moment, Anton realized that only by merging the past and the present, Only by accepting the broken parts of his life could he move forward into a new life. The failures were no longer painful wounds in his heart. Anton began to see them as stones, seeds waiting to sprout. What he thought was lost now became important parts of this transformation. He stopped trying to forget about the bad memories and started facing them. The failures at work, the broken relationships, and the dreams that never came true were no longer things he wanted to erase. Instead, they were lessons. They were the pieces he needed to rebuild himself. Anton remembered what Fulcanelli had taught him. Coagulation is the fusion of opposites. Death is not an end, but a rebirth, a transformation of the old into the new. His past failures and pains were now stepping stones for him to move forward. And one day, Anton started to feel this change. It wasn't a big or sudden change, it was a slow one, little by little. He learned that even the most meaningless moments could give him valuable lessons. Every moment, whether happy or sad, could be the building blocks for a new life. He started doing things he had always thought were impossible. He started trying again at old dreams, but this time with a new perspective and a new plan. He learned that past failures were not roadblocks, but valuable lessons that helped him move forward. Anton felt a sense of wonder as he began to heal the wounds in his soul. The blending of past and present, of successes and failures, began to create a peace within him. He no longer tried to change what could not be changed, but instead learned to live with what remained, and found peace in the broken parts of his life. There were no more moments of sighing, no more fears of death or the passing of time. Anton felt like he was entering a new space, where time was no longer something that took away life, but a source of energy that helped him regenerate and become stronger. And then, in a quiet moment, Anton realized something important. He didn't need to wait for some sudden change from the outside. It was he, with what he had learned from the past, from his broken dreams, who could create change from within. Life is not a series of missed chances. Life is what we do with what we have left. Anton is now ready to live every moment of his life to the fullest. Anton no longer looks back on the past with regret. He is no longer afraid of death or worried about things that can't be changed. He knows that life is not about waiting for new chances, but about being thankful for what you have and learning how to make something valuable out of things that seem useless. And in that moment, Anton knew that his life had begun a new path, a path not to escape death, but to live fully with what he had learned, what he had experienced. And every step, no matter how small, was part of the transformation, the coagulation that he had learned from Fulcanelli. Will Anton keep going down this path? Will he find the dreams he lost? Or will he make new ones from what he has left? Follow this journey to see what Anton will do with his new life. Anton stood in front of the window of his room and looked out. The soft light of the sunset shone on his face, bringing out the wrinkles and signs of age on his skin. He no longer felt afraid when he looked at time like he used to. Instead, he felt the magic of each moment, as if life had given him a gift. In the past, Anton thought of time as an enemy. Every hour and every minute that went by reminded him of his lost youth, missed chances, and unfulfilled goals. He felt like a ship that couldn't go back to its old dock or change the past. But now, everything was different. Anton no longer feared death or the passing of time. Time was no longer his enemy. It was a teacher. Each moment that passed was not a drop of water lost, but a part of the eternal river. He understood that those moments, no matter how short, held a great change. Anton started to get that time is like a river that never stops flowing. It can't be stopped or turned back. All the happy and sad moments that have passed are part of this flow. Time, like its waves, will carry everything away, but it will also carry away what we need to live. Life is found in this constant change. Time goes by, but we are the ones who give it meaning. Anton thought to himself. It's not time that takes away everything. It's how we use it that matters. If time is a river, then every choice we make and every moment we live is a stone we throw into it. They not only make waves, but they also change the course of our lives. Death is not the end. Fulcanelli wrote, "It is only a transition, a transformation of one form into another." We cannot change the past, but we can change the way we live in the present to create a new future. Anton no longer feared death. He no longer saw it as a dark end. He realized that death was just part of the endless flow of time. Like the leaves falling in autumn, they do not disappear, but only change into another part of nature. Death is the opening of a new space, a chance to start over. Anton found peace by accepting time and death. He didn't run away from them. Instead, he lived fully in each moment, without fear. Every moment is valuable, and if we know how to appreciate them, we will never feel that time is passing without purpose. Anton realized that he had missed a lot of chances in life because he was always living in regret and fear. But now he knows that he doesn't need to look for a new chance. He just needs to see the chances that are already there. Every day, every hour, and every minute is a chance to change, to grow, and to really live. Anton understands that time doesn't go by quickly. It's that we don't know how to live fully in each moment. Every moment that passes is not a loss, but a chance to be reborn and turn the broken bits of the past into significant aspects of the present. Anton began to see life differently after this. He no longer regretted the past or waited for the future. He lived fully in each moment, knowing that every part of life was important. Time was no longer an enemy he had to run away from. It was a friend who helped him grow and develop. He began to do things he thought he couldn't do again. Old dreams that he'd given up on became motivation for him to keep going. Time, like a river that never stops flowing, is the chance for him to become a better version of himself. Anton then realized that life isn't about waiting for anything to change. It's about living in the moment, enjoying the little things, and knowing that everything has significance in its own way. Will Anton keep living every moment of his life to the fullest? Can he really let go of his worries about death and past mistakes? The answer is in what he does next. Anton has learned about time, mortality, and change. But how will he use these teachings in his own life? Keep following this trip to see what Anton does when he faces his next difficulty. Anton has changed. He is no longer afraid of time or worried about it. He has learned to live in the present, enjoy each moment, and find meaning in each moment. But like all journeys, there are times when the path becomes unclear, when you begin to change, when you begin to live differently. You are faced with choices, forks, and some forks, they can be deceiving. Anton felt like he was at a crossroads. One way led to peace, and the other, which could lead him into temptations. things that might make him feel like he had found meaning for a short time, but could never bring him true peace. These temptations, though not always obvious, will always be there. They come when you stop being afraid, when you begin to open your heart and begin to seek great things. Anton, like many others, wanted a perfect life. A job with no mistakes, a happy family with no problems, a life without painful twists and turns. But as he went along, he learned that perfection is just a shadow. It is not something we can hold on to, but an image we make in our own minds. But when Anton realizes that life is not perfect, he starts to feel an irresistible urge, an irresistible feeling, when he sees the image of a perfect life, a world without failure or difficult turns. Will he, once again, be fooled by the glamour of the ideal, forgetting that the truth of life is to accept imperfections? He started to hear the calls of perfection. The temptations were soft but strong. They were invitations to a life without mistakes, failures, or regrets. But Anton knew that if he went down this path, he would have to leave behind the most important parts of himself, the parts that made him, the broken parts that turned into real gold. Anton has also seen the second path. It is the path of avoidance. When you are in pain and can't accept a part of life, one of the easiest things to do is to avoid it. You can avoid the feeling of failure, the truth, and even yourself. Not facing the truth about yourself can sometimes be a way to protect yourself from pain. Anton understands that there are times when we want to run away from pain. We want to hide the wounds that have healed temporarily. We want to forget the failures, the bad choices, and the mistakes of the past. But running away is not the way to heal. Only by facing those wounds can we truly heal and become stronger. But this path seems much easier. It promises a life without conflict or difficulty, a life where you can avoid everything that is unpleasant. But will this avoidance help Anton be true to himself? Will it help him find peace of mind? Or is it just an escape from what he needs to face? And then, the last path, the one Anton started to see, was the path of acceptance. Acceptance is not giving up, but coming to terms with the flaws in life, the mistakes and wounds that have made him who he is. Accepting that life will always have twists and turns, moments that you can't control. And when you accept these, you can move forward. Anton knew that every broken portion of life had a fresh beginning. There was no need to run away or look for perfection. Instead, he learned to live with his flaws and found serenity from there. Anton stood at the crossroads of three paths. In that moment, he understood that each path had its own strength. The path of acceptance, which combined the past and the present, was the one he had chosen. He couldn't go back, but he could start fresh, one step at a time. And on this journey, will Anton keep being accepting and peaceful? Or will he be drawn to other paths again? Let's keep following this story to see what happens next. Anton is no longer worried about time or tempted to be perfect or run away. He has learned the most important lesson of his life, that the past is not something to be avoided, but an important part of growing up. Now that he has been through so much, he is ready to move on. I know I can't live in the past forever, but that doesn't mean I have to give up everything that's happened. The wounds, the mistakes, and the failures are all important parts of who I am today. And now I'm starting to understand that I don't have to regret the past. I just have to learn to put all those broken pieces together to make a new life. A life that isn't perfect, but whole and complete. Anton began to see everything in his life in a new way. He no longer saw his life as two separate parts, the past and the present. Instead, he saw the two as connected. The past was not a lost part, but the basis for the present. He knew that he could only make a new life, a truly fulfilling life, by accepting the wounds and mistakes of the past. Anton learned that nothing in life is meaningless through his failures. The moments that seemed like mistakes were actually gems that he could use to build his future. He realized that every step he took, whether mistakes or successes, had its own value. And he began to see himself creating a new image, not a perfect man, but a man who accepted himself with all that he had been through. Accepting yourself doesn't mean ignoring all your flaws. It means knowing how to see and deal with them. Anton no longer runs away from his past or is afraid of the memories of it. Instead, he starts to put all of those parts together into a new person. He remembered reading a quote in Fulcanelli's book that said, "Only when you blend all the opposites in life, success and failure, happiness and suffering, life and death, can you create true gold, the gold of the soul." Anton understood that it wasn't the past that was holding him back, but how he saw it. He made a completely new life for himself when he learned how to connect the past to the present. Anton felt himself changing every day, but not all at once. He no longer feared confronting his past or himself. He no longer saw himself as a victim of past mistakes. Instead, he began to see himself as a goldsmith, polishing broken pieces into something valuable. He understood that change isn't a miracle. It's a long-term process that happens when you accept yourself and change from the inside out. These incremental adjustments make Anton a new person, stronger, more mature, and more complete. Anton looked back on his journey and no longer saw the pieces of his past as useless. He saw them as uncut diamonds, parts of his life that he needed to accept in order to make real gold. The failures, regrets, and broken parts of his life made him whole, like an alchemist making gold from cheap metals. Anton found value in the pieces of his life. Anton learned that true gold is not something luxurious or faultless. It is the harmony of opposites and the rebirth from wounds and failures. He found the most valuable things in the moments that looked gone. So, Anton has finished an important part of his journey. He has not only faced his past, but also found a way to make it part of his present, which has made his life better. But this journey does not end here. Life goes on. And Anton knows that every day is a chance to keep getting better and better. So, can Anton keep making gold out of the broken pieces of his life? Can he keep going on this journey of change and find complete peace? The next steps will show the answer. Time goes by, and Anton changes. A year ago, he was a man of anxiety, failures, and doubts. But now he is a man of the present, a man who accepts every part of himself, even the wounds that haven't healed or the mistakes he made in the past. He has learned that the quality of life is not determined by the past or death, but by how we live in the present and how we see time and what has happened. Anton didn't just find peace in his failures. He didn't just heal old wounds. He found strength in what he had been through. He wasn't just broken and sorry anymore. Those broken pieces made a new shape, a new life. And with it, Anton learned something important. Time is not an enemy we must fight, but a teacher we must listen to. Anton learned along the way that not everything he did would work out right away, but every step, every failure, and every rise was part of the process of becoming who he was meant to be. They were the building blocks he could use to build strong houses in his soul. Failures weren't things he had to avoid. They were the building blocks of true success. He remembered what Fulcanelli had said. We can't change the past, but we can change how we live in the present, which will make a new future. Anton lived by this statement all the way through his voyage. He got to a future that wasn't tormented by the past, by accepting things, mixing pieces and wholeness. Anton learned that nothing is meaningless while he was going through a change. Every moment of life is a chance to change. Life is a constant process of rebirth. Even though it is full of pain and problems, a fallen leaf becomes part of Mother Earth and helps new trees grow. Each of Anton's failures and mistakes has become part of him, helping him become a new person. He knows that in each of those failures, there is the power of rebirth. Anton learned not to be perfect, but to accept his flaws and see them as a normal part of growing up. Each time he fell, he got up stronger. Each time he did, he felt himself getting stronger and more mature. From his wounds and failures, he made real gold of the soul. Now that Anton is at a crossroads in his life, he is no longer afraid. He knows that he can't control time, but he can choose how to live in that time. He can choose to make gold out of what he has, even if it seems useless. Time is not an enemy. We decide how valuable it is by living in each moment. Anton learned this lesson. Every moment is a chance to change, heal, and start over. Anton no longer sees time as an enemy. He no longer fears death or worries about what has happened. Every moment, no matter how short, is full of magic. Anton's life is now a constant rebirth, a creation of gold from the broken pieces of life. He lives each moment fully, no longer afraid of the twists and turns or the challenges that come next. Anton knew that life isn't only about getting to a certain place. It's always changing and growing. He learned how to live fully in each moment, appreciating what was occurring right now and not stressing about what had happened before. So, what did Anton find on his journey? Did he really live a full life? Or was there something missing? Those questions don't matter anymore because Anton knows that every step and every challenge gives him a new chance. He will never stop changing and never stop making gold from the broken parts of his life. Anton is not at the end of his life. He is at the start of a new journey, a journey where he will keep living, changing, and making the most of the time that passes. Anton stood alone, with the late afternoon sun shining on his face, making the wrinkles and signs of time seem to be new. His life was no longer a series of days of worry and regret. The broken parts of the past were no longer a burden, but the material for him to build a new self, a more stable, more mature, and more peaceful person. But he still didn't know the answer to the question, where will this journey end? Will this journey ever really end? No matter how many roads it has traveled or how many challenges it has faced, has Anton really found perfection in his life? Or will he keep looking for a greater truth and a deeper freedom from the flaws of life? Anton has learned over the past few months that life is not a destination, but a process that never ends. He has learned that every moment, no matter how small or big, is part of the process of learning and changing. He knows that this journey will never end. Only steps, decisions, and lessons that he learns from the moments that pass by. He no longer wants to be perfect. He no longer judges his life by the unrealistic standards set by society. Instead, he looks at his steps, whether they are mistakes or successes, and understands that it is in those flaws that true value lies. He has learned to live with all that he has and to accept that things don't always go as planned. But like all of us, life still has new challenges waiting for us. Even though we have learned valuable lessons, Anton knows that challenges and darkness will always be a part of life, even though he has peace in his heart. Every time he thinks he's completely overcome his worries and fears, another feeling arises in his mind. Do I have the strength to continue walking on this path? Anton learns with every step that life will always throw him challenges, no matter how much he knows or how much he learns. These challenges could be old wounds, unhealed pains, or new failures that he never saw coming. Can he face them with strength and not give in to fear or temptation? At some point, Anton thought that life was a never-ending cycle of rebirth. Every day, every hour, he had to make a new choice. Could he keep living by the values he had learned? Keep accepting the parts of himself that weren't perfect, and not let the shadows of the past take over his present steps? And every time he looked ahead, he saw that this path had no end. No matter how many challenges, no matter how many temptations, Anton knew that he could choose another path. A path of continuity, of constant transformation. This path was not to run away from the past, but to live fully with all that had passed, to create a new life from those very fragments. Anton knew that acceptance, not death or perfection, was the key to living in peace. He had to accept that life is a never-ending process with no endpoint. Every challenge and difficulty is just a part of growing up. When he accepts that, he no longer feels tied to things that can't be changed. There is no need to be afraid of the challenges ahead or to worry about what has not happened yet. Anton knows that by living fully in each moment, each step, he has created value for his own life. It is acceptance that helps him have true peace. And that is the real gold that he has found throughout this journey. So, will Anton keep living every moment of his life to the fullest, not being afraid of the challenges, and not letting the past take over the present? His journey isn't over yet. And the last question is, can he keep his peace of mind as he faces the next challenges of his life? Anton is in the middle of life now. He's no longer afraid or looking for a big goal to reach. His journey has no end, but each step adds a lot of value. He has learned that perfection is not a destination, but the blending of imperfect parts and the acceptance that every failure and mistake is an important part of a person's growth process. The voice is soft, yet every word is full with encouragement. Anton's soul has changed, but it is not yet finished. Anton has stopped worrying about the past and the future. He knows that everything, good or bad, is a part of life that he must face, accept, and learn to live with. He has learned that nothing is certain, and that perfection is just an illusion that we create in our own minds. Life is a process of constant change, turning what seems worthless into real gold. With each step in his life, Anton no longer seeks perfection, but instead accepts the fragments of his life. The parts that seemed lost, broken, are now not just traces of failure, but precious parts of his rebirth. Anton understands that gold is not something that can be grasped from the outside, but is transformed from within, from existing materials, refined through the process of self-awareness. He no longer looked for perfection in things or how they looked on the outside. Instead, he found gold in the pieces of life. It was the lessons he learned from the past, the mistakes he made, and the people who came into his life, whether they brought him joy or grief. Anton started to realize that this change wouldn't happen all at once. It would take time. Every moment of his life, whether happy or sad, could help him find himself and make true gold in his spirit. Life wasn't perfect for him because he got everything he wanted. It was perfect because he learned to accept all parts of life, from the good to the bad, from the failures to the successes. This acceptance is the real gold that Anton found not in the world, but in his own heart. In a moment of silence, Anton suddenly realized that on this journey, he not only found peace, but also found his true nature. He was no longer a man of regrets, of unforgivable mistakes. He was a complete, whole person because he had accepted what belonged to the past and lived fully in the present. Nothing is meaningless. Failures, heartaches, and fears are all part of his growth. Anton has learned to see value in things that cannot be changed, to see preciousness in the fragments, and to understand that it is these things that have made him who he is today. Looking ahead, Anton is no longer scared. He doesn't worry about the future because he knows that every step he takes has value. He knows that he can keep making gold out of the pieces of life, no matter where it takes him. He is not perfect, but he has learned to make his flaws an important part of life. And in every moment, every challenge, Anton will continue to search for gold. Not physical gold, but the gold of the soul, the gold of understanding, the gold of acceptance and integration. Because he knows that, in this process, he is creating true value for his life. Anton still has a long way to go. He doesn't know where he'll go next, but he knows that every step, every challenge, and every moment of life will be worth it, because he has learned how to make gold from his own life. And how will this journey go on? Will Anton keep making gold out of his life? Will he find the missing pieces and keep living each moment to the fullest,